You're listening to the Reaching Japan podcast. My name is James Miyashita. So glad that you're here today. In this podcast, we cover updates and news about what's currently happening in our lives and ministry. You can find us on the web at reachingjapan.com, facebook.com/reachingjapan, and twitter.com/reachingjapan. Now, if you haven't already, please leave us a review for this podcast so others can find it as well and join us on the journey of reaching Japan with the gospel. Thanks so much for tuning in. Here's what we're going to be talking about. Wow, so 2 years. We've managed to dodge COVID for 2 years, moved across the Pacific Ocean twice, lived in 3 different cities, and then it finally got to us over the last couple weeks. Hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for listening today. If you haven't seen the updates, we all got it. Our family went down with it. And thankfully, our boys didn't really have very bad symptoms. Our youngest, Ezra, was kind of pitiful for about a day. But then after that, he was fine. Our oldest son, Silas, his kindergarten was starting to get COVID patients. And, eventually I had to go pick him up one day because it said, hey, there's been a report of another kid who was here the other day. He's got COVID. And then eventually they actually had to shut down the whole class for a few days. Well, we went and picked him up, and Sunday went to church, and Monday afternoon I started to feel sick, and I'm like, I kind of have a headache, kind of starting to feel weak, and by Monday night I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy with all the body aches and just feeling sick. So I went and got tested because I knew that Silas had been exposed, and they said, yep, you've got it. So Rosie had been feeling sick too, and she started showing symptoms around the same time. So she and the other boys went and got tested on Tuesday, and they all tested positive. But like I said, the boys were, Silas and Amos, they were very energetic through the whole thing. They weren't really acting sick at all, so we were excited about that. But we were told by the city that, if one of our kids didn't have it, if they didn't have it, then essentially after everybody had gotten better, they'd have to wait another week. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise that they tested positive, because in Japan right now, you have to quarantine for 10 days once you start showing symptoms or test positive. So we've been in quarantine for about 10 days. For about 5 or 6 of those, Rosie and I were just kind of sick and sick out of our minds, trying to manage the kids being stuck in the house and trying to get better. But we finally started coming around. It was pretty crazy, though. The city had a service where you could apply, and they would basically issue you a number, and you could apply for meals to get delivered to your house. So we did that for a few days. Then after we got our strength back, there's like a grocery delivery service, so we could get groceries delivered, so we just kind of canceled the city one. But we've been taken care of, thank the Lord, and we're excited. As I'm recording this is our last day being in quarantine, so we are very excited to be done with that and getting out of this place and moving on. I shared a little bit about this in our prayer letter, but I wanted to share it here as well. There's a young man named Yuji who I met at a local university. He's been coming around. He's been asking questions, and he'd actually come to our house like we shared 5 meals together over the course of a week during Golden Week, and we were super concerned that he was going to get sick, and then maybe he would not want to come around anymore. But we've been staying in touch, and it's been super exciting. But he needs to get saved. He's 21 years old. He actually grew up going to a Catholic school, but he is not a Christian. He doesn't claim to be a Christian. But he said, there's stuff that I'm dealing with, and I'd like to see if the Bible has answers. I'm like, great, let's study the Bible. So he's come to church once, but please continue to pray for him. Right now, we're also eyeing a second location. I know we kind of technically started a second location already, but it hasn't really produced any results, and it's, it really wasn't what we were expecting. But looking back on it, and I've gotten some feedback from some others as well, and basically the location's kind of bad, and So we're thinking about changing that. There happens to be a storefront literally right around the corner from our house, and it's in a really good location. It's small enough for us. I say small enough because we don't want something huge to start with, so it doesn't feel like an empty room with like three people in it. Because our current church plant location is probably like 500 square feet, so it's very tiny. But it helps because if there's when there's 10 people in the room, it feels like there's a crowd. So that's kind of what we're going for in these beginning stages. Well, there's a storefront that's been sitting open for the time that we've lived here, and it's literally like a 2-minute walk from our house. And so I asked our real estate agent who helped us get our first location set up what that would look like. So we might be starting somewhere near our house too. We'll keep you posted. But there's a university right by our house. This is a different one from the one Yuji goes to. But there's literally college kids flowing past this place like all the time. And the access is great. It's on the first floor. We haven't started anything on a first floor yet. Our first location is on a second floor, and the rental space that we were using for the second location was on the second floor as well. So I think it might be beneficial to get on the first floor and try something that way. But just pray for us. We need a lot of wisdom in moving forward. I think it would definitely be a lot more cost involved, but thanks to generous supporters and prayer partners like you guys, we're able to do this stuff. So thank you guys so much. We look forward to staying in touch. And so please be praying with us for our friend Yuji, for our church plants, and direction as we move forward. Thanks. So that's a little bit of what's been going on here. Now, if you have any questions or comments about what we talked about today, I'd love to hear from you. I will do my best to answer those questions on this podcast. You can always reach me via email. My email address is james@reachingjapan.com. That's james@reachingjapan.com. We are honored to serve under the direction of Vision Baptist Church and Vision Baptist Missions in Alpharetta, Georgia. If you're looking for a way to take your next step in ministry or missions, please reach out to me. Thanks for tuning in today. We will see you next time.